Now, we should also discuss J.K. Rowling's challenge to police to arrest her under Scotland's new hate crime laws. The Harry Potter author described several transgender women, including convicting prisoners such as rapist Isla Bryson, as men in a lengthy Twitter post. She said the laws, which created new crime of stirring up hatred against some protected characteristics, including transgender identity, could represent an end to freedom of speech and belief. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, appeared to back Rowling in a statement that said people should not be criminalised for stating facts on biology. But Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf defended the laws. Let's have a listen.
This bill is about protecting people against that rising tide of hatred we see far too prevalent in our society nowadays. The only concern you should have when it comes to the new stirring up of hate, the new stirring up offences, is if your behaviour is threatening or abusive and intends to stir up hatred. And by the way, even if that is the case, there are some defences, such as the reasonable person defence, and so on and so forth. So unless your behaviour is threatening or abusive and intends to stir up hatred, then you have nothing to worry about in terms of the new offences being created.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing, I have to say, none of the debates that people get involved with nowadays could be more third-railed than this. I think everybody agrees that people want to protect minorities from hate crime. And by hate crime, I mean the type of language which is designed to incite violence very clearly. Here we have a different law. Now, whatever your view on transgender, the transgender community, whatever your belief, I'm going to start, with you, Angela. Do you think this represents a dangerous threat to freedom of speech in the way that J.K. Rowling is describing? Absolutely.
Can I say, as the only woman on the panel, and that is a matter of biological reality.
You're XX.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't going to demonstrate it on morning telly because it'll frighten the horses, but let me just assure you that I am a woman and this does not protect me. And this idea, or my daughter or anybody else who is female or has female loved ones, we cannot argue with biological sex and then criminalise those that do, because it is a matter of it is a matter of biological fact. And actually, I think this throws the baby out with the bathwater. I know it's a cliche, but in pursuit of trying to make people understand and be caring and sympathetic to the needs of the transgender community, who do deal with some very toxic stuff, understandably, what it's doing is it will alienate those who would, their default position should ordinarily be sympathetic, because it's not covering that basic human right as a woman to be recognised for what she is.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said, Angela, that people in the trans community do suffer from an awful lot of hate, because I remember once hosting an NHS event for people from the trans community, LGBTQI+, and the mental health pressure, the suicide rate of people from those communities is far higher than those, in the general population. Now, if Humza Yousaf and the SNP have got this right, and it does strike the right balance between protections against hate crime and freedom of speech, it will hardly ever be used because the bar will be very, very, very high, even higher than inciting racial hatred. The big question is whether someone like J.K. Rowling should be allowed and entitled to say what she says in that very strong, provocative 11-tweet post yesterday. And I think she should, because she wasn't trying to stir up hate. I think she was saying, look, this is my view as a woman. Here are some so-called trans women who, and quite a number of them were convicted criminals. She was focusing specifically on that element of the debate. I don't think she was trying to stir up hate against trans people more generally. That's hopefully how most people see it.
The problem is that it's all about the wording of the law. And looking at the law myself, and I think a number of lawyers will feel the same, as ordinary people should, the law has to be understood by everybody. It's going to come down to the subjective whims and the views of police officers and what actual police officers. So we all may agree, even members of the transgender communities, there's not just one, by the way, there's a number of views across the transgender communities. You end up with a situation not dissimilar from what happened in the Harry Miller case. You'll remember this is somebody who posted online a tweet criticising the Gender Recognition Act and ended up with a knock at the door from the police saying, "We want to check your thinking." Now, whatever your view, that is Orwellian in the extreme. And I have to say, the most challenging threat to the freedom of speech, of which all of our other rights are based. You don't have freedom of speech, we've got none of this. Democracy diminishes and dies. And on top of that, Mr. Justice Knowles, in that case, ruled it to be unlawful, having, as he said, a substantial chilling effect on free speech. So, that's my worry.
But you would imagine that almost every other senior police officer in every constabulary around the country, on seeing that, would send out an instruction to his or her officers and say, look at that, we don't want to be in that position. We don't want to embarrass ourselves.
How's it come about in the first place when 48% of burglaries in certain parts of the country, that their calls are not being answered? We talk about, or we'll go on to talk about the issue of police officers not being paid enough, and this idea of not having confidence in the police when they're acting, as you say, it's very Orwellian, as thought police, as opposed to where there's
just because they don't want to be doing this, right? But when you're going to get a massive upswing, no, they want to be policing. They want to be protecting people in our community. They want to be drawn into these issues. They get criticism and no benefit.
So why aren't they objecting when they're sent out on
They
these?
don't make the laws, you'll be aware. It's politicians who do it to score points. My issue, I have to be parochial, seeing as I'm here for a while, I don't see how this is going to survive a challenge in the court. There is an Article 10 right, by the way, that protects your right to hold your own opinions and to express them freely without government opinion. That's not the European Convention on Human Rights, that's our own Human Rights Act. So it seems to me that in due course we're going to end up in expensive publicly funded litigation, and exactly as you described, police time used up in circumstances not going to protect the trans community from actual violence and is going to threaten and undermine free speech. It's a lose-lose for everybody.
People become more irritated. They learn that that's what police officers are doing in their time. It won't increase sympathy for the trans community.
Well, I suspect
we're
in agreement about that, at the same time wanting to ensure that every minority is protected, although J.K. Rowling's point that this doesn't actually protect women is one that's worth pondering on and considering. Now,